Chelsea completely unable to beat Qarabag. Who's Qarabag, you say? A team from the Azerbaijani Premier League. Premier League, but Azerbaijani Premier League. Welcome back to FFB, amigos. And today we're not that excited. We're not that happy. We're always happy to watch football and happy to watch our team. Broadly happy, but specifically a little upset and unhappy because the performance was not there. The patterns of play were not there. And the result certainly, as a consequence of that, was not there. And I think was a little bit unfair to Qarabag because I think they could have and should have done better. And the stats might prove that. We'll look at them. We'll look at them together. I do have this young man up on screen because I want to start with the positive. I think all Chelsea fans, we know this is a very, very, very special young man, and we have high hopes. There's a bit of debate out there in the world where Chelsea fans are going crazy saying this young man needs to play every single minute of every single game, of every single tournament. And that's just crazy. Because the other side of it says we need to protect him, and we've heard Maresca speak of this. We need to protect Estevão, and I think we do. And I think we need to protect him, but we need to protect him from the parties and the madness and potential bad personal problems that he can have with personal problems, romantic relationships, alcohol, partying, that kind of thing is always, for somebody coming up, he needs good examples, mature professional footballers around him, and make sure that the culture in the club is adequate. We do need to protect him physically because a player with his ability is going to get kicked around a little bit, and he is young. So there has to be some protecting, but it's going to happen. When a player is that skillful, it's going to happen. We have to teach him to deal with it. I think he should be playing much more than he is playing. But of course, he shouldn't play every turn, every game, every time. No, of course, he should get some rest here and there. But today he proved again why we should see him. I think he was the only one that during the full game showed that even when left to his own devices in no space, with nobody to play close to him, can still take on his man, put in a cross, take 1-2 man, take on a shot, and be a concern for the other team. He did it in a low block, in transition. Defensively, he may have a little bit to work on, but still admirable. Thank you so much, Estevao. And we still have a lot of hope for you. And as Chelsea fans, I ask you, please, let's have patience with this young man. Let's not be tough on him. Let's make sure, let's allow the coach to not let him play every minute of every game. That's not what we want either. Hopefully we'll see him a little bit more. And when we do, pressure's off. I think until you're 20-something, the pressure should be off of you. And he can do great things for us. Having said that, the game ended 2-2. As you can see there, we played 5 extra minutes. And let's start a little bit with the lineups, which I'm going to bring up right now. I'm not going to talk about the Qarabag lineup because I don't know anything about Qarabag, to be honest. But I did learn a few things today. I was surprised how technically organized they were, as differently in Chelsea. And they, if you see it from their perspective, they adapted to the game several times. They were able to play a low block. You would think they managed to park the bus and get the result from Chelsea. No, amigos, that did not happen. They knew how to get really tight and really close when they needed in defense, but they were able to, I saw them counter through the middle. I saw them counter wide. I saw them set up with 2 players ready for the press, and then at times switch and have 1 winger ready to press, reacting to what they were seeing Chelsea do on the field. I think they were very disciplined on that. So it looked at times if Reece James is trying to invert, they would have their player, their most defensive player, stay a little bit wider to create that chaos and room in behind them. We saw it during one of the goals also where they had an attack where they drew out Hato, which didn't have a good match at all. The Chelsea fans were really upset. I did a live, and they really wanted him out of the match. And that's weird. We'll get into Chelsea right now, but we'll talk about why I think that's so crazy, because it's not like we had a weak team on the field. I just think it's not an adequate team or people in the right positions. We'll get into it. But I did want to give a holler to a couple of those guys out there. They had an injury as soon as the match started. And I don't know how important that player was to him, but 4 or 5 minutes in, they certainly did. And I do want to see, this Adai was a decent player, and Emmanuel Adai, and they caused some trouble for us, man. They really did cause some trouble. Now, the Chelsea fans were really upset about how we started the game. And I think the low-hanging fruit and easy one to get upset about is definitely Tyreek George playing in the 9 position. Nobody understands it. Nobody sees it. We can't stand Maresca for doing it. And he did a good job and he scored a goal against whoever. That's not the point. That's even worse because the fact that he has that eye for goal and he can do it in a position where he's uncomfortable and he's not doing the function or the job very well. Not only is that bad, but what's wrong with Mark Gu? Like, somebody please tell me. I don't understand. And if we're going to give George a chance, we got to let him play in his position, right? I mean, I don't think Gittins or Garnacho have a monopoly on that position. And that's a heavily rotated and physically demanding position. So we're just saying that George is a 9. Like, even with the lap injured and Joao Pedro exhausted, supposedly, that just seems a little bit counterintuitive, a little bit dumb, if you ask me. Estevao could have played in the 10. We could have played a winger on the wing, shifted things around a little bit. We didn't. Tragically, Lavia comes out injured, which is double tragic because, number one, he gets injured, which is obviously a suffering and a problem for us, that we lose that man. But then Caicedo has to play more minutes. Now he's got to play in Baku, Azerbaijan, in the middle of the week when we have some games coming out, the international break coming up, and then we have Barcelona coming to the bridge. Man, that's just incredibly demanding, and so sad. I can't see Lavia coming off the field anymore. He's such a hope, and a problem with that also is that not only did we lose Lavia for that match, I hope not for not too long, but in function there's a mistake. It's unfortunate because we do have Isugo and Lavia supposedly as backup, and even Andrés Santos is backup to Caicedo. But when the solution is, it really becomes a Caicedo position, because when somebody's going to fill that deep lying 6 position, it has to be Caicedo. That was the opportunity to tell Santos to sit in that spot fully for the whole game, but and play that role. But no, I mean at the beginning, right? Like let him play, because when Lavia does really well, even it's because Santos is Caicedo is doing the deep 6 and Lavia can progress the ball. But no, it was Lavia called upon to that rule. Then he gets injured. So I get confused about why we're making these choices. And then you would think that we're going to do really well with James and Cucurella on the side. I didn't see much from Cucurella, to be honest, to get too excited about, but I think Greece had a decent game. Then our center backs, Hato and Adarabioyo. Adarabioyo is the more mature, but it seems that playing on that left-hand side would have been more suited for Hato, but he didn't do well when he played on that left-hand side. Adarabioyo was exposed as well. Defending wasn't great, and a lot of Chelsea fans are wondering why we're not playing a champon. So look, it wasn't a terrible starting lineup, but those sort of problems persist. And of course, if they would have won 5-0, I would have had a different opinion, potentially. But not seeing Gui was a little bit confusing. Sad to see Caicedo come in. Facundo Buenanote, just a nothing burger when he came in. Garnacho, when he came in, he played a few minutes well, but not much to go home about, to be honest. He did get us the goal, which is important. Estevao got us the goal at the beginning of the match, which was important. So we were up for the game, and then they drew the game, and then they beat us. And if it wasn't for that Garnacho goal, we wouldn't be there. And he was winging. That's what I'm saying. When he got that goal, he was there, and then he disappeared for the rest of the match. That's kind of my point. That just can't happen. And once the other team is really organized in a compressed block, we don't know what to do, and we just pass the ball around. And then we just depend fully on individual skill. So, like, Fernandez take on somebody, run through the lines, try to score a goal. Estevão try to take on 2 people, take a shot. And, of course, when you're against a low block, that's kind of called for. And that's why you pay the millions to have these really talented players in your team. But to be honest, I'm just sad that we couldn't do better throughout the match in terms of patterns of play. Now, I said this during the live. It becomes very predictable for Chelsea fans watching the game how your defensive structure and tactics are going to lead to you conceding a goal, right? That's sort of fairly clear, although a new one has creeped up, which is because before we would say if they drop into a very low block the whole game and they just counter us wide, that was like all of last season and still this season, like Chelsea's toast. Because more than likely they won't be able to break you, and they're going to become vulnerable because they only defend with one midfielder, Caicedo usually, and then a line of 3 behind them, which is super high at one point, and 2 of those people are at least compromised during any offensive play, more than likely. Now Wolves pressed us, and that's a match I have to admit I did not watch, but everybody that I trust and like And highlights don't count, but I watched a lot of highlights, and now it seems we were exposed there also with a high press, and that's what happened. Qarabag, congratulations, Qarabag. You did low press, high press, different attacking options. Let's look at the XG because you might think I'm crazy. At the end, let me make sure I refresh it here, and that I turn it on for you guys to watch. Boom. Okay, so the ball possession, we ended up in the second half, we took the monster share of possession. We had 61% of the possession because first half, we were 50-50 when our B team, but which is not a B team if Reece James and Cucurella and all these players on there, and Caicedo ended up joining, and like, get out of here. And João Pedro, yes, he was the backup striker at Brighton for Welbeck. Because that's what we bought Welbeck's backup. That's who we brought to our club. Those are levels. I love the guy, and I'm rooting for him, but it's not like we brought in Osimhen or something like that, right? We brought the guy that was benching it at Brighton in the hopes that, the scouts know so great that he's going to explode one day. And he did well for us at first, but now he's struggling. And we got the possession, but look at the XG even. We have only 1.08 XG. They had 1.65. Shots on target 4-3. Yes, we had more shots, but crap shots, not on target. 16 shots, out of which only 4 are on target, versus their 9 and 3 on target. So obviously their XG is better. They had 3 big chances. Chelsea 0. Their chances were clear. That towards the end, guys, they had a chance that this guy that I ended up calling Pikachu from Qarabag just beat Cucurella shamefully. Like, he just caught him sleeping and ran past him into the penalty spot with a low cross coming in and just handed it to Robert Sanchez. Because he hadn't done that, that goal should have gone in. So I think they were done wrong, to be honest. Like, the gods of football can be very cruel sometimes, and Qarabag really deserved more. And I would have been okay with losing that match because we had a losing performance. That doesn't mean anything crazy or mad. I still feel how I feel about Maresca and his choices and his lineup and his rigidity, if you ask me, tactically. So not only does he shift people around, but it brings them in. He expects them to do this crazy stuff that is very demanding of players that don't get the minutes to develop that. And I don't think it helps their development as footballers as much to play this system that one dude plays. Because we're very insistent on it. There's people that may tactically adjust for a few minutes in a game and do, like, convert the fullbacks and do this and that. But it's not that common. So I don't know how much that does for their development either. But look, it is what it is, and we should have done better. We didn't. I'm glad to see Garnacho score and get himself a Champions League game. I think that's very good. I think he needs to be a little bit more aggressive. I think he's a little shy when taking on some players. He's struggled. I've seen him attempt and not be able to beat his man a couple of times. But when he has done, yeah, you got an own goal. I mean, like, he puts the pressure, and that's what you want your wingers to do. Because if we have both our wingers doing that, being Neto, Estevao, Pedro, if they're insisting enough, you will pin back the left back, right backs, and left wing and right wings of the opposition, and potentially creating team if you have a 9 doing a 9 job. Later, we had the lap come in, and we saw that dude drop into the 6th position, deep to muscle some people out, because that's something I didn't see enough of either. I think we got a little nervous and lost some confidence, and we couldn't press to recover. We were marking. We seemed a little bit organized, but we weren't pressing hardcore to recover that ball with enough aggression in the middle of the field, which I found a little surprising, because all the way around the midfield, I'm talking like almost into our side, we allowed some passes to be played with not much pressure. Of course, when Caicedo shows up, he pressures the hell out of him. But even him wasn't that tough on it. So I found that, to be honestly, a little bit surprising. But hopefully that's something that we can change soon. I'm not too terrified about it, but this new format of the Champions League, I think, confuses a lot of fans. And, it's like, it's one result. You knew what that meant because you had an away game and a home and an away game with 3 particular teams. Now this league format is very confusing. We certainly want to be one of the teams that qualify in the very top positions because that means less football games. And when you start struggling with injuries, and now we're claiming that that's rotation and that we're tired, now we're going to use the World Cup as an excuse and all these things, I don't think that's fair. If you want to say that about Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, Fair enough, they played a million games. But everybody else has been rotated enough. Somebody even claimed too much. So I don't know how tiredness, how those excuses play off. This is a reaction, guys. I'll do a more thought-out video, and I'll probably be joining some lives this week, some panels and discussions. So I'll make posts of where I'm going to be, so in case you guys want to hear me argue with other Chelsea creators, and have a more clear stance once I look at the stats a little bit more and all that. But yeah, offensively, patterns of play, once we face somebody that is heavily organized, that doesn't risk as much offensively. Now I'm broadening the statement of where Chelsea failed to win games they should against lesser opposition. I guess we may be wrong about what lesser opposition is. Just think about that one. In any case, we have to get these top positions. We have Barcelona next. Ironically, I think we can score against Barcelona and do well if they come out and play against us. So it'd be we have an opportunity. But we're kind of a wild card. And that's not, it's very difficult to win anything that way, anything real. Certainly a long league like the Premier League or even the Champions League nowadays. This new format kind of causes that problem. But I believe that we can. We have the talent. I just think we need to change a little bit what our mentality is, what we do, what some of our players are doing, certainly what our coach is doing. I think we need to simplify football a little bit for ourselves and play players where they play, bring in some old school sort of mentality and tactics, organization, and hopefully we'll see that. In any case, thank you so much for joining this video. I hope to see you midweek to doing some more, and I'll continue the live as always. For the Chelsea players, thank you so much. Still, it wasn't the result we wanted, the performance we wanted, but you gave it your all, and I always appreciate that. If some of you didn't, I hope that you find a way to be able to focus and bring it. And I think a lot of players didn't expect to have to come on today, and they had to come on to try to get a result, and we got a draw, which we didn't deserve, to be honest. Draw at best would have been. But those who really tried and are giving it all, thank you so much. And to all the Chelsea fans out there, as always, come on, you Blues.